So I've been a creative person since forever. I remember as a young girl, my creativity was about matching different clothes and patterns, and I fell in love with vintage when I was 17 before it was cool, and I knew I had this creative spark. And I found it in different ways throughout my life. I was a photographer and filmmaker for 10 years, and then I started a school, which really was a creative act of joy. Like, can I create a world that can protect my child from pain, that can allow him to be unobstructed in his growth? And it was a dream, it was an imaginative dream, but it also was an expression of fear. Like, I'm so afraid of my child out in the world. What can I do to protect them? And while we were building this amazing community of lamplighters, I started writing. I was writing for a blog called Chavria, and my voice from the beginning was very much the vulnerable share. Really opening up my world to not just talk about my thoughts on the community and the Jewish community, but about myself, like the pain of feeling like an outsider, the pain of feeling like I didn't belong, what it was like to be a child of Bali Tshuva, and how I learned about sex and birth control and being ambivalent about my pregnancy and child sexual abuse and all of these things. And in many ways I became a voice for the unspoken pain and the rabble-rouser, right? Screw the status quo. No. And but I was still in a safe space because I had this amazing organization that we built that felt unstoppable and untouchable. And so it felt safe to share from there. And then when Lamplighters closed, it was an incredible time of mourning and grief for me. It felt like someone that I loved, a child of mine, dying. And there was so much unsaid about how and why, and so many assumptions. And I really had to fall into my grief and really come to terms with a lot of my own personal trauma that I have not spoken about yet. And seeing how my own trauma really showed up in how I ran my organization and how I had a hard time with boundaries and a hard time saying no, and our stuff comes up everywhere, right? And when Lamplighters closed, I also was faced with a lot of challenges at home with a few of my own children and some mental health crises, and it felt like my whole entire world was imploding. And the assumption was that Yocheved and Rami is so sad because Lamplighters closed. And Yocheved and Rami's Yocheved and Rami, Yocheved Sidof, they made a name, it's funny. The little child in me is still Yocheved and Rami. Yocheved Sidof must be so sad because, what is she doing now? Who is she now? Who am I now? Who am I when for 10 years my whole life was about this identity that I had created? Who am I now? And people don't know what's behind the closed door. I was very vocal on social media for 10 years, writing and posting and fundraising and so outward. People don't know what's inside so much. People don't know that the day that we were liquidating assets at Lamplighters, I was sitting in an emergency room with one of my children. People don't know. And that's okay, there's so much that people don't need to know. But I remember one moment fairly recently where it was Hanukkah time, and I was just really sitting with that loneliness of just the pain of contrasting, time is a spiral, so there's moments, right? We look back and we're like, I remember last year Purim looked like this, or Hanukkah looked like that, or this Shabbos or this birthday looked like that, and we stop and we reflect. And Hanukkah in past years looked very different for me and for the world. And I wrote about that. I wrote about my broken menorah. And the response from so many people was, oh my God, are you okay? And I'm so sorry about Lamplighters. And can I tell you about you're gonna be okay and you'll find a new career and all that. And it comes from a place of love. But in that moment I felt there is something collectively that when we see and witness pain, we feel we need to fix it and we need to understand it. And we are so much more than our pain. We are so much more than our brokenness. And our stories and our vulnerable moments and our sadness is not something to fix. It's not something to fix. It's something to sit in. It's something to feel. And a lot of times that feeling just comes from like our relationship with ourselves. Like, ultimately, that's who we're here for. And so in many ways, my life is so much simpler. In many ways, it's so much more complex because I'm really engaged in healing. I'm engaged in really hard stuff. And I look back to that person who was running a school and fundraising and out there and boom, 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 boom. And I'm just like, that person is so me, but it's not me anymore also.
So happy for you.
I had a moment with my daughter last night. I have a particular child that's going through a hard time, and I said to her, I just wish I could protect you. Like, I just wish that I could protect you from all pain in this world. And I really wish that so deeply. And she looked at me and she's like, but then how would I ever grow, Mommy? And it was so pure. And I was like, you know what? They know it. Like, we know it deep inside, but yet, like, we get sidetracked along the way.
We keep bulldozing. Because it's also you. And you can do that. It's not hard to do that.